Hi everyone! In this video, I'll be explaining how to write complex sentences and in particular adverb clauses. This is a great lesson to have more variety in your sentence structure so that your English writing improves. This will also actually help you with reading as well because you'll recognize different types of sentence structure and how we can put ideas together in English. Okay, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is just look at it at an example and notice how it's structured. Okay, when Lourdes left Honduras, Enrique missed her. What do you notice about this sentence? What's the subject? We have Lourdes, and we have a verb left, and the complete thought is Honduras. So it's like we have one sentence over here, but then we have another subject, Enrique, and another verb, missed, and another complete thought, her. So we sort of have two sentences in this sentence. I also see a when. This is a type of conjunction, which we call a subordinating conjunction. And I also see a comma in the middle. So at the beginning of this semester, we learned about simple sentence with just one subject, one verb, and one complete thought. But as you can see, complex sentences get more, there's more to it. Okay. Let me explain. So complex sentences basically have a dependent clause and an independent clause. Okay, what does that mean? Let's look at the example. When Enrique tried to go north by train, this here is a dependent clause. And a clause is basically another word in English for a sentence, meaning it has a subject, verb, and complete thought. But this one's dependent because it's not finished. When Enrique tried to go north by train, well, what happened when he tried to do that? I can't really put a period right here because the thought is not finished. Okay? So that's a dependent clause. It's like an incomplete sentence. And then this here is an independent clause. He faced many dangers. It has a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. And actually, this sentence here can stand alone. Like, he faced many dangers. Like, if I wanted to, this is a complete sentence and it can stand alone. This one can't because it has this subordinating conjunction, when. So that's what this complex sentence looks like, with a dependent clause that's not, the thought's not finished, and then the independent clause that finishes the thought. And notice the comma. So we're learning another comma rule. After the dependent clause, we're putting a comma here. Let's compare, because earlier this semester we studied compound sentences. So compound sentence basically has two independent clauses. I don't speak English very well, comma, but I will learn. And these two independent clauses are combined with a fan voice or coordinating conjunction, like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And these are independent clauses because they're complete sentences. I don't speak English very well, I will learn. On the other hand, a complex sentence has a dependent clause with some kind of subordinator and an independent clause. For example, although I don't speak English very well, there's my dependent clause, and although is the subordinator, making it dependent. And then I have a comma, and then I have my independent clause. I'm finishing the thought. Although I don't speak English very well, comma, I will learn. There's different types of complex sentences, and in this video lesson, we're actually just focusing on the first type, which is called an adverb clause. So what we saw here, this here is called an adverb clause, okay, that dependent clause. But there's different types, and we'll study later this semester the other types of clauses, of dependent clauses. Okay, let's talk a little bit about word order. And this can be very important in English writing, and it can vary from language to language. After she moved to the US, life wasn't easy. Where's my dependent clause? It's right here at the beginning. After she moved to the US, I have my dependent clause, and then I have a comma, and then I have my independent clause. Actually, in English, for these type of adverb clauses, you can change the word order. I can bring this independent clause at the beginning of the sentence. Life wasn't easy after she moved to the US. So I can switch. I can bring this one to the beginning, and then the dependent clause will come second. But notice the punctuation. If you begin this complex sentence with your dependent clause, you need a comma to signal to the reader that your independent clause is coming. However, in American English, if the dependent clause comes second, I have that off after in the middle, so I don't need a comma here. Okay? So if the dependent clause comes second, you don't need a comma here. No comma. With compound sentences, I had that acronym fanboys, which makes it easy to remember, but actually there's lots of subordinating conjunctions, and here are some that are very common in English. Some are related to time, like after or before or when. Others are related to reason and cause, like because and since, or a condition, like if or even if, unless, provided that. We use them a lot to show contrast with while, although, whereas, or you can have a purpose clause with so that. Let's take a look at some examples. As. As means the same thing as while, like at the same time. As I learn more, I become smarter. Or you could change the word order. You could say, I become smarter as I learn more. So this part can come second. This means while, at the same time. While I'm learning to read, I'm learning to write. And that's what we're doing in this class. Okay. When, this is another time subordinator. When I go to school, I learn a lot. That means that at that time, or in those conditions. After. After I took the class, so what happened after that? After I took the class, comma, I could speak English better. So this is the independent clause that finishes the thought, and it's explaining what happened after. Before. Before I took the class, so this is the opposite. Before, what happened? I had a hard time communicating. Now, even though and although we use for contrast, so it's similar to but. Even though I make some mistakes, or we say although I make some mistakes, comma, I can communicate very well. It's like saying I make mistakes, but I can communicate very well. And if we use for conditions, like if I continue to take classes, if that happens, hypothetically, comma, I will get even better. Okay? Another thing to keep in mind is the verb tenses. we use present tense, the simple present tense, if you talk about a habit or general truth. So something that always happens, like when I read books, I learn so many words. I'm not talking about right now, but in general, this is true, or this is a habit. So you can use the simple present if that's just a fact. But if you're talking about something that happened before in the past, you want to use past tense. Last semester, when I read the book, I learned so many new words. So this happened before in the past. Now, sometimes with these adverb clauses, we use past continuous. And we use that type of verb, if you talk about something in progress in the past. For example, while I was reading the book, this here, it was in progress. It was in the process of happening. I was annotating. So these two things, they're not finished. They're happening and in progress. So I'm using here past continuous. So it's good to pay attention when you're writing them. Pay attention to the verb tense, because it can be confusing if sometimes you use present and sometimes you use past, and then the time relationships can be confusing. So it's good to pay attention. Let's practice. As or while I watched the grammar video, what did you do? What did you do while you watched this video? As or while I watched the grammar video, comma, I took notes. And it's good to pause and take notes. Or you can say, I took notes as or while I watched the grammar video. You can change the word or the sentence structure. Let's practice another one. Even though I make grammar mistakes, or sometimes we say although. Even though I make grammar mistakes, comma, I'm getting better. And you can change the sentence structure and bring this to the front. I'm getting better even though I make grammar mistakes. Let's do one more. If I need help with grammar, what can you do? If I need help with grammar, comma, I can meet with the tutor or teacher, or bring this part to the front. I can meet with the tutor or teacher if I need help with grammar. And again, notice here I don't need a comma, but here I do. We put the comma when we begin the sentence with the dependent clause. I recommend practicing and just making your own sentences with these subordinating conjunctions. Okay? Let's review what we learned. So basically, adverb type clauses are a type of complex sentence, and complex sentences are different from compound sentences because complex sentences have a dependent clause that's not finished and an independent clause. Subordinating conjunctions go in this dependent clause, and they're words like when or if or even though. And you can change the word order and bring the dependent clause in the beginning and then have a comma, or it can go in the second part of the sentence with no comma. All right, I recommend to practice, and you're always welcome to rewatch this video and just come see me if you have any questions, and we'll practice in class as much as we can. Bye. Thanks.